G'day, and welcome to Say It With Guitars. I'm your host, Pete Cornelius. Each episode, I'll be digging deep and getting to hang with some of Australia's finest guitar pickers, songwriters, producers, collectors, and makers. I look forward to bringing you these fun conversations, and I hope you enjoy Say It With Guitars.
G'day listeners, thanks again for joining us. Hope you're all doing good. Life's treating you well. What's been happening? Yesterday I went down to Hobart for some rehearsals with the Beatles band. We're putting that back together, folks, for our annual Beatles season, as we like to call it. I got a stack of shows around Tassie. We're playing in Shearwater, Avondale, Longley. That's on the second weekend of November. And then we've got some other shows around the Taste. Also, St Helens, where else? Dodgers Ferry. We're playing all around the place, folks. So yeah, look forward to getting Beatley yet again. Also, I'm very excited to catch a guitar hero of mine, a fellow called Bill Frisell. I'm sure most of you are aware of him. If you're not aware of Bill, I'd definitely recommend checking out some of his work. He's a great jazz guitar player, but he's also very proficient on most styles. And yeah, you can hear him on lots of different sessions with lots of different genres. Yeah, he's definitely a dude I would recommend checking out if he comes to your neck of the woods. Anyway, I recorded our chat today with Chris Finnen at his house in South Australia, and yeah, it was a great chat, and I hope you enjoy it. Before we crack into today's show, I'd love to shout out to our Season 4 sponsors, Tarrant Guitars and Top Shelf Guitars. The custom workshop of award-winning luthier Billy Tarrant on the northwest coast of Tasmania uses locally and internationally sourced solid tone woods to create a wide range of custom guitars, including acoustic, electric, lap steel guitars and specialty instruments, showcasing his passion for superior tone and structural integrity. Tassie's one-stop custom workshop for custom-made guitars, all guitar repairs and services. Check out tarrantguitars.net.au. Top Shelf Instruments specialises in used and vintage guitars, pedals and amps, shipping worldwide from Hobart, Tasmania, Australia. We love helping players land exceptional instruments for manageable dollars, and guitars from Japan hold a special place in our hearts. New old guitars hit the website almost daily, so head on over to the website for this week's weird and wonderful offerings, topshelfinstruments.com.au. All right, I'd like to welcome to today's podcast, Say It With Guitars, Mr. Chris Finnen. Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Thanks very much for having a chat with me here today. You've got some great history here in the walls. I've been having a little quick sneak peek of what's been happening. Some great memories, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, I think I've sort of documented stuff as I've gone along simply because I enjoy people, and it's just nice to sort of keep some of the bits and pieces around that you've enjoyed on a personal level, but you can share with other people, and it gives you the impetus to keep moving forward and trying new things. But occasionally you need to remember old things just to remind you of. You would find the same thing yourself. You know, you listen to your playing and think, "Gee, I played like that 20 years ago." And you've learnt new stuff, and occasionally you do a bit of revision and you realise, I don't play like that anymore. That's pretty good. And you still learn from going back to the older stuff as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's quite good to reflect on previous recordings and stuff, because you think, you're always striving to learn more and to play better, in quotes.
Yes.
But sometimes the earlier stuff I've listened to of myself, it's like, wow, that was really... It didn't sound like there was much brain between, I wasn't thinking as much as I probably am.
Yeah, well, I think as you get older, you probably, phrase a little differently, play less notes. But when you're young, you've got that energetic thing where you're in for a penny, in for a pound. And I think the other thing is, once you've established your sound, I mean, my sound is a selection of different sounds, but the tones are my own. Doesn't matter what I plug into, I've got this idea in my head about how I want to sound.
Yeah.
It takes a while to find. I started playing guitar when I was 11, I went full-time at the age of 16, and I'm 70, nearly 73 now. By the time I was 30, 33, 34, I kind of figured, you know, you listen to your play, well, that's a bit like Johnny Winter or like Roy Gallagher or like Albert King. And all of a sudden, wait a minute, that sounds like me.
Yeah.
And you finally discover you've got your own sound or your own selection of sounds.
Yeah. It's no, there's no one, you know, path to that though, is there? It's just
because the guitar's such a fascinating instrument. You can look at people like Robert Fripp or John McLaughlin, and then B.B. King, and then, you know, Booker White, and Django Reinhardt, and Les Paul. And it never, thank goodness it never stops. I mean, if I thought I knew what I was doing, I must just go and burn my guitar. But it's that joy of rediscovering.
Yeah, absolutely. So those players you mentioned, sort of pretty good influences back in the day when you were first discovering the instrument? Or
the first thing, I guess, was the Shadows, because I lived in England till 1967, and then the Beatles, of course, but then the Stones. That was Brian Jones was a big influence. I loved the Stones when Brian was in them. And then through that, I had a school teacher that bought me a record called The Blues Volume 2, which in England was on the Pie label, and in America it was on Chess. I had a track by Muddy, track by Little Walter, track by Howlin' Wolf, a track by Chuck Berry, all these track by Buddy Guy. I listened to that and thought, what's this?
Yeah.
And I was a pretty naive young kid, so I didn't necessarily understand the sexual connotation of the lyrics, but I understood the phrasing of the singing, and I understood the great sound of the guitars. Yeah. And then there was British folk music, which influenced me a lot as well. And then from there it just grew, because I was forever just buying records all the time.
Yeah, I guess England did have that American blues. Thanks to guys like the Beatles and the Stones, they would have influenced a lot of that younger generation.
Well, opened it up. I'd lay in bed at night when I was supposed to be asleep with the transistor radio and listen to Radio Luxembourg, and they play a lot of jazz because of all the American servicemen that were in Germany.
Yeah.
So you get to hear a bit of jazz as well.
Yeah.
And my dad played, big band jazz he loved, but he had a couple of records of Django Reinhardt, and he was a big Les Paul Mary Ford fan.
Sure.
So I listened to them a lot.
Yep.
They were a big influence. In fact, when I first heard Clapton on that famous Beano record with the John Miles Blues Breakers, and he got that distorted sound under his Les Paul, that really made me stop to think, because a lot of people heard that sound. That was the first thing they ever heard on the Les Paul. But I'd been growing up with Les Paul and Mary Ford and all that double speed guitar and that clean sound and what Les had actually designed it for. So to me, the change was even more radical. Mind you, the minute I heard it, I thought, wow, I've got to have this, you know.
That is a very distinctive tone. I remember when I first heard that record too, it just sort of, just the sustain and the
just a beautiful tone.
Absolutely.
And then the next record was A Hard Road, with Peter Green emulated the same tone.
Yeah.
And then the record after that was Crusade with Mick Taylor, who had a totally different vibrato, but they all had Les Paul standards, I think maybe through a Marshall amplifier or something. Yeah. And they all went for that sound, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, it's such a glorious sound when you hear it. I never get sick of that. It's beautiful.
And then Peter Green just pulled it back to something so individual. I mean, Peter Green was just like nothing else you ever heard.
Yeah. He was never in a hurry, I think. He had this sort of fresh, slow, sort of considered approach. And his vibrato was so...
Yeah, and he didn't drown the guitar in distortion. You could still hear of course, then he had that guitar wide backwards or whatever it was. But he still... You could hear the instrument. It wasn't just drowned. Some of the British guys sort of drowned it all in distortion. But then, of course, they sold the music back to America, and all the people in America who were doing the college circuit and everything were getting better gigs, you know. Or they went to the college circuit, you know. Yeah. So I came to Australia at the age of 14, and here there was a big influence of English music and American music, and then the early days of Australian blues. Which I was kind of in on those early days, and you see what it's developed into now, and you're a perfect example of somebody that's taken this music on board, and it's your own point of view and about your own life, your own music. Yeah. Years ago, that didn't really exist here. There was pop music and a bit of what they called R&B, which is different to what the kids call R&B now. You know, on it goes.
Yeah, on it goes, absolutely. So maybe can you tell me a bit about those early blues bands here in Australia? I know that, like you said, you're very much part of that early
there was
scene.
Well, there was Billy Thorpe and the Aztecs, and for about a year and a half they had the great Lobby Lloyd with them, and they were really loud, but good loud. I mean, it was really. I was a teenager. I go to this little place in Melbourne called the Thumping Tom, which was really small, and they just about blow my ears out.
Wow.
And it was so exciting.
Yeah.
And Lobby Lloyd had that Fender Jaguar guitar, and his finger was curled around the tremolo arm the whole time, and just had this, So really, that was an Australian equivalent for me of somebody going to the Marquee and seeing Clapton or Peter Green. It was the same ideology. And then, of course, Phil Manning. We've been friends since 1971, 1970. And the early days of Chain, even before Matt joined, when Wendy Addington was a singer. And then there was the Adelaide Smith Blues Band with Kieran Tolhurst playing lap steel. So that was the first time I'd ever heard. Well, I'd probably heard lap steel before, but the first time I'd ever seen one.
Sure.
You know, what's this guy doing with this ironing board? And they used to play the nightclubs in Melbourne. There was something like 38, 39, 40 gigs a week.
Amazing.
And Thursday was a big night because people would get paid on a Thursday, and they get a little brown pay envelope, and off they go to the pub. Sunday gigs weren't so many of those around back then, but there were all these great Q Club and Catchers and Bertie, and then there was a good town hall circuit. So my first band, St James and Furry, by about 1968, we were doing the town hall circuit at Box Hill with Sgt Pepper's. Broadmeadows was White Elephant, and Beaumaris was Stonehenge, and so they all had their little name, and you'd have three bands on a night, and all the bands would do like a 45-minute set, and have go-go dancers either side of the stage.
Amazing.
And so each band did a 45-minute set, so they could pick the cream of their crop. They just play their best songs, you know. When I first heard the Masters Apprentices, with wonderful Doug Ford playing the Melbourne incarnation of that band, they were doing things like Spoonful and traffic songs, Heaven Is In Your Mind and stuff like that, as well as their Turn Up Your Radio, and they gradually started writing their own stuff. But they were doing a lot of covers, but they were doing them their own way.
Sure.
So it was really quite exciting.
Amazing. So when you first came over here, you said it was in 67, is that what you said?
January 1967.
Yeah, right. And did you go to Melbourne? Like, was Melbourne hometown for you?
Yeah, we went to Melbourne and stayed in the hostel for a few months, and then Mum and Dad got a house built out near Croydon.
Okay.
So I used to get the train into town and go to all the import record shops, buy import records. My Nanny Johnson, who lived in Newcastle in England, God bless her, she couldn't afford it, but she still did it. She'd send me Melody Maker and New Musical Express every month, and the Beano and the Dandy comics.
Wow.
Of course, Clapton's reading the Beano on that thing. And you could read them, and then you could find out what albums were released overseas, because some of the albums weren't released here. Even if they were, they didn't have the same covers and stuff. That's how I first found out about Ry Cooder. I was reading an article on Rory Gallagher when he was back in Taste, and he was mentioning Ry Cooder. So I guess the research started from that.
Sure.
And there were so many record shops at the time, import record shops, and so you'd go into town and you'd buy your records, and I'd go and listen to the bands in town, get the train in. Due to bad vision, I've never driven a vehicle, and then the gigs had maybe finished at 1:32 in the morning. The last train was 11:30 or 11:45, whatever it was, and I had to make a decision. But do I want to get the train home and miss the next band, or do I want to hear the band? I stayed to hear the band, and I'd walk around town all night, because you didn't have all-night coffee shops there. I'd just walk around town to the first train on Sunday morning and get the train back home. But it was worth it to hear those bands live, because it was not like the world of today with the internet and everything else. So if you wanted to hear something, you just had to hear them live, and they might have had a single out or something, with a song that went for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and live it, go for 8 minutes. And I just stand right near the stage and watch, and that was how I did a lot of my learning. And most people I asked for information were really quite forthcoming and very friendly and quite happy to share information, even though I was a little bit younger and underage in some of the places. They were happy to show me stuff, and I've never forgotten. That's why I've always been the same with people myself.
Such a great way to share your craft, but also to enrich the musical community. You know, like you need to. I think it's such a healthy thing to do. Is
it's
to
hands-on.
Encourage the next generation to.
Yeah, and I guess what you don't realise too is, you know, you're showing them something, and then they might do something a different way to you, and it might be something really simple. So you can still learn from them as well. It's still a two-way street.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's great. So, let's get back to early or late.
Yeah, excuse me a second.
Right.
Sorry, I'll just get this. But it's Mick Young, and he was singing your praises about the gig yesterday.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's great. Cool.
And what was that question you just asked me?
What was I going to say? So in that late '60s period in Melbourne,
yeah,
there would have been a lot of other influences from not necessarily. Like there was a lot of migration happening, wasn't there, in Australia in that sort of period?
Yes. And there was also, I was very involved in the folk circuit because I loved all the English and Scottish traditional folk.
Yeah.
Not Peter, Paul and Mary stuff, but, the Burt Yance, John Remble, Mark McCarthy, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I used to go to Frank Trainor's. So I had an outlet for playing my acoustic folk music as well. And that sort of, I had the two things were going parallel. So, and a lot of the music, the acoustic music then, was in coffee shops. And cafes, so the people weren't drinking; they'd buy coffee and but listening to the music.
So I've really only recently, not recently, but probably like in the last 10, 15 years, really appreciated the acoustic side of music. Because it's such a different approach, and it's more song based or melody, or not necessarily more melody based, but. It's just got a different approach, and
well, if you're playing by yourself too, you're responsible for a bass line and a chord line, and you know it's you and the guitar, isn't it? And it just takes a different part of your brain to fill up the sonic palette in like you said, the lows, the highs, the rhythm, all that sort of stuff, and it brings the song. I know, like onto a higher level. If like the concentration of like lyric or like it's there's less distractions, I suppose. Yeah, you've got to put the bones down before you can stick on the muscles and the nerve endings and the skin. You know, so I know when I first started playing, I had an acoustic guitar and a typical impatient kid. I'm 11. I just want electric, like the Beatles and the Stones. My dad said, he was a very strict Scotsman. He said, "You learn to play that first. When I think you know how to play that, we'll talk about an electric."
Right.
So I played acoustic for the first 4.5 years. He bought me an acoustic guitar, a set of pitch pipes, and a metronome.
Sure.
And I'm looking back on it, you know, when I'd be in the bedroom and I'd change the weight on the metronome and he'd be hovering around outside, which I didn't know. And he said, "No, you leave that there for tonight. If you want to change it, you change it tomorrow night." I'm thinking, "Oh, you grumpy old sod," you know. Back in those days, you never would have dared to say that. But looking back on it now, because my dad was a part-time drummer before he married my mum, before I was born, I can understand why he did it. And I think, even I've been teaching some people, if you just start on an electric guitar and it's got light strings, you're missing a basic fundamental element of what this box with air in it actually does. When I first started, and when I got my first electric guitar, you couldn't get light gauge strings. And this chap in Melbourne called Paul Gale, who used to run Soundworks, I've known Paul for years, he said, "Look, Chris, what you do," he said, "you get a D banjo string, which has got a loop on the end." And I used to get some of the tie string ends for me, again with my bad vision. I'd move the E for a B, I'd have the B for a G, so I had an unwound G, the G for a D, D for an A, the A for an E, and throw away the thick E, and then I could bend strings.
Oh, wow.
And then probably about a year later, 68 or so, Labella made these light gauge strings. They were the first ones I ever, but they were too light.
Right.
Probably something like I normally use, I think it's 11 to 56.
Yeah.
But at concert pitch, not too low. And they were too light, and I put them on, and I only had a cheap little guitar, but half the guitar disappeared.
Yeah.
So I thought, I went back to even using the banjo string until later on they brought out different gauges. Somebody told me now you can lay even half them. You can get that's mind-boggling. But that was what you used to do so you could bend the string.
Wow. Yeah, so the banjo playing string for an E string.
A D banjo string for your E, and then move everything else down one and throw away the thick string.
Wow. That's a crazy concept to even think that there was no other gauges. They were just like, here's the strings.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So what sort of influences were, like, I know that you mentioned like Bert Jensch and stuff like that on the acoustics, like, I'm guessing all the Blind Blakes and the Robert Johnsons and Skip Jameses and all that sort of...
one of my biggest influences was probably a bit less finesse. The first two guys I heard were Blind Lemon Jefferson, who's just fucking impossible. Pardon my language. He's impossible. No one else thinks like that. And Booker White was a huge influence.
Yeah.
And those rhythmic things of Booker White, they were rough around the edges, but I absolutely loved that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was screaming with passion and energy, I think, a lot of that early...
Yeah.
Well, I guess they had a different reason to... Well, not different, but they had a real reason to play and to sing. They had a message and they had...
Yeah, and you're in a barrel house and you've got to keep a room full of drunk people happy all night. So you've just got to be able to lock into a rhythm and just sort of keep playing, you know. And I think that was one of the things I learnt when I had to do solo gigs. I mean, now I'll only ever do a guest spot or 2 sets. I'm not interested in doing 3 sets. That's okay for cabaret bands. But for years, you'd be doing the circuit, you do 3 sets solo. You had to have a lot of songs and you had to have the ability. And for me, it was just me and a microphone and a room full of people. I didn't use a kickbox. I didn't use a loop station. So my stories and my music had to keep the attention of the room. That's
intense, isn't it?
That really teaches you a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
I remember, now I'll have to swear in this, so forgive me here, but I remember going to Blacktown RSL and I was doing some duo tours with Jeff Lang in the early days. And we'd do an opening set. I'd do a set or he'd do a set and we'd swap it round. So one night he'd open, the next night I'd open, and then we'd do a set together.
Great.
And we're at Blacktown RSL and Jeff had been driving all day because I'm no bloody use in a van sharing driving. So we get there and he's knackered. Normally he would have gone on first that night. I said, look, Jeff, I'll go on first. You get yourself some grub. So I'd walk up to the microphone in this sort of front bar. I said, how you going? Good evening. I'm from Adelaide. My name's Chris Finnen. And this guy yells out, why don't you fuck off back there? And I hadn't played a note, And well, I've got to do something here. So I said, well, I could do, but I said, let's just give this a go and see where we end up. And I had a guitar in open G, and I capoed it up to about the 7th fret. And I did some of that polyrhythmic kind of a boogie thing and just flailed at it. Normally you'd start off a bit subtler, and it worked.
Right.
And we had their attention, and then Jeff did his set. And at the end of the night, we Pied Pipered them out of the... Unplugged their guitars, using a Bo Diddley rhythm, out the pub, into the car park.
Wow.
And one of the guys goes to a phone box at the car park, rings up some of his friends, and he's holding the phone out the phone box. And I'm thinking, this is what live music affords you. If you've only ever just worked in the studio or worked in a comfortable zone, if you're playing live music in Australia or somewhere like Blacktown, you've got to deal with this. You've got to turn it into something or die.
Yes. It's survival mode kicks in, I suppose.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've got plenty of stories like that yourself, because that's what live performance teaches you.
Yeah.
Live performance with a band, when you've got the camaraderie of your friends, live performance on your Todd playing acoustic, it's you and the world.
Yes, you're very vulnerable. And like straight away, like you said, like that, the first words that come out of that guy's mouth, like, it's like, all right, cool, we better get to business and get like you said, start with intensity as opposed to like...
Yeah, well, I was married at the time, and I said to my wife on the phone, I told her what had happened. She said, oh, I would have died if that happened to me. I said, well, I would have died if I hadn't done something, because that's the end of it. That's the end of you,
Yeah, as soon as I can smell fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, that's great. So you've spent a bit of time with Jeff on the road?
Yeah, quite a few years with Jeff on the road, right when he first started out. And we just hit it off immediately.
Great.
Became good friends. Same sense of humour. And I guess, in fact, I've got a book, and Jeff wrote, Matt Taylor wrote the foreword I'll give you a copy of it. And I wanted Jeff to write the backward. I thought, I'm going to have a forward and a backward.
Yeah.
And Jeff talks about when we first met, and I'd been playing in the Matt Taylor band, and I'd left and Jeff had joined, and they were in Adelaide. Matt said, you've got to come and see this friend of mine, Chris, and it was about 4 o'clock in the morning at a nightclub, and he came down, stayed till 5 or 6 in the morning, came back to my place, we had a bit of grub, listened to some records, and I influenced him slightly with my record collection when he used to come and stay. Yeah. As we always, I'd play, and as it went on over the years, I'd play him whatever music I'd just got, and he'd play whatever music he'd just got. And I guess that's the other great thing about music, talking about Australian musicians or people from anywhere, is whatever you've got, you share. Yeah. You only get some people precious about them, don't want to share it. They're in the wrong business.
Yes.
Especially for us, playing the music we do, which is not commercial pop music.
Yeah.
You share your ideas and you influence each other, and you become like this family.
Yeah. No, that's one thing I definitely have noticed over the years, probably even more so lately, is the feeling of community within the music space. And especially now with the online capabilities, you can keep in touch. Or you can keep in touch, I'm sure you can keep in touch lots of different ways over the years, but it seems a bit more, I don't know, you see videos of what people are up to, and you can see photos, and it sort of feels like this real big, and everyone's helping each other out. Like I ran into some guys the other day, and they're like, oh, next time you come, and I've got a spreadsheet of all the venues and all the radio stations and all the contacts, and if you hook us up, I can help you out with gear and places to
or
stay,
even giving someone, I quite often what you call the rescue, just get someone to come from interstate with, you can stay here.
Yeah.
Got a spare room, stay here, have some breakfast. I used to love that because you'd be listening to music and you'd be sharing stuff. When my son was a little boy, I was a single parent from when my son was about 2.5, my youngest son. So Matt Taylor would come over, and Dutch would come over, and Phil Manning would come over, and Isaac was a little kid. That was just Uncle Dutch and Uncle Matt and Uncle Phil, and they'd be having their breakfast, and this little toddler would go into their cereal and wanting to have a strawberry or something, and he just grew up with that, knowing that that was what you did. You
just normal.
You shared your house, and
No, I think it's great on both ends of it. Like, it's great to have visitors share and just be part of your life, but also like to host as well. I think it's nice.
And then you always learn something about music.
Yeah.
They'll play your stuff when you go out and buy that, and you'll play them stuff, and
that's healthy, super healthy.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just want to interject here for a moment. We took a very short break from recording, and we came back in, and I picked up a CD from Chris's collection of Muireann Bradley. She's a great young Irish guitar player who plays sort of traditional blues, finger-picking sort of acoustic blues, and that's who we're talking about here. So just thought I'd let you know. Isn't she great?
Yes.
Yeah, I heard
I hope she does another album soon.
Yeah, this is a bit old now, isn't it? 2023. She toured out here, I think, this year.
Yeah.
She came out. I didn't see any shows, but I think she's doing really well.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
singer.
just wonderful that somebody so young wants to take this. Like you said before, this sort of like, if I said moral responsibility, that sounds a bit too straight-laced, but there's something in you. If you've had a life of music that you've enjoyed so much and you want to share it with people when you play, you also want to pass it on to people. And she apparently was very much into all the sport, and then COVID hit and she couldn't do the sport she loved. And her father was a player and used to teach her when she was young. She took it back up.
Yeah.
And she made that decision to take it up and do a bit of hard work, and she's got youth on the side, she's young, she's pretty, she's Irish, so it's coming from a different spot.
Yes.
But it makes you realise too that blues can come from anywhere, providing their albums mostly covers, but I think you get to that point, you learn that stuff, and then gradually your own ideas and things come in, and then your own personality comes in, and then your own feeling and your own intensity and your own spirituality. You develop that, but it's a good starting point.
I 100% agree, and you have to kind of start there. You can't just write those great original
but I think
songs and sounds straight up.
A musical format that allows you the opportunity to express inner feelings
Yes.
is the great nucleus of what this stuff means. And when you're young, you probably don't even know what your inner feelings are. But, you know, it's a great vehicle for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, yeah, that's, you know, finger-picking style. And, yeah, just the appreciation for a certain period of music too, especially for a young person. I think it's... Yeah,
I mean, I'm an absolute klutz when it comes to finger-picking style. I use the thumb on one finger.
Right.
And it sounds like I'm using more, but I'm not. That's just... Or a flat pick that no one else wants to touch because it's like a garden trowel, it's so thick. Yeah. But that's worked for me. I was self-taught and I don't read any music. So when I first started playing, that was how I started. And I feel very comfortable with it. And I remember years and years and years ago, this young lady I was quite keen on, she was a classical guitar player. She said, wow, if you use the other fingers, you know, you'd be amazing. And with the thumb and finger, as I say, works for me. And I look at a clip of someone like Richard Thompson who's using a flat pick and all his fingers, and I'm just, you know, now it's too late for me to do that in a way because I'm so stylised and I'm in my 70s. I mean, every so often, once a year, I try using a thumb pick. Yeah. And it never worked. I love the sound.
Yes.
But I'm used to using the skin of my thumbnail, and that works. And I pick up a thumb pick, and something I could do easily without one falls apart.
Yeah.
So once a year I do it and throw it away and go back to what works, you know. Yeah. It just means I've got to turn the acoustic up a little bit more, change the EQ. Yeah. And it's still, then you can make it sound close, you know.
Yeah. Yep, and then you sort of have to allow for that, I think, with EQ and volume.
Yeah.
Give yourself a bit of headroom.
Yeah, well, I mean, EQ pedals are more sophisticated now. The one pedal I want them to make is an IQ pedal. That's what I need. Forget the EQ, I want the IQ. Yeah. But it's funny with all the pedals too, you know. I remember somebody came out to me at a gig once and I said, where would you be without all your pedals? I said, I'll be playing through an amplifier. I don't really need an excessive amount of them. I use a drive pedal, which I leave on all the time.
Sure.
And turn my guitar up and down from the volume. A little bit of echo here and here, a bit of chorus, and that's about it. And I've just rebought a wah-wah pedal because with all my back problems, standing on the one leg was just getting really difficult. Yeah. And now I've got someone that comes to see me once a week and sorts my back out. So I don't have a go at using a wah-wah pedal again.
Great.
So that's basically it. I mean, I've got other pedals that, if I'm in the studio, they'll work nice at a low volume. And if I'm doing ambient music or, you know, something that's not blues, I can have a lot of fun with those things. And I spent a lot of time working with Indian musicians and playing Indian music and playing in an Indian band that we played for the Dalai Lama. We used to play ragas. I studied under Professor Manfred Jr. So Indian music was a big influence on me because at the age of 14 or 15, I went and saw that Monterey Pop film. And of course, Ravi Shankar was playing. So right from that age, right from 67, 68, I embraced Indian music long before it was so popular now with all because all the festivals now embrace music from everywhere. Well, back then they didn't. Yeah. And if you wanted to find Indian music, it wasn't very easy.
No, it would have been awfully, very hard.
You know, and now Ali Akbar Khan and Zakir Hussain and Hariprasad Teresa, Dr. Subramaniam, and, you know, you go to a shop and there's a great rack of Indian music. Back then it was, some of that stuff you wanted to find, you really had to go trawling for. Same as a great Bahamian guitar player, Joseph Spence. Right. Was a big influence on Ry Cooder.
Ah, right.
And so when I kind of calypso-y stuff. Mm-hmm. And then again, as a kid, I heard some calypso on the radio in England. And so I immediately listened to those calypso sounds, and then there was a woman called Millie Small, and she had a song out called My Boy Lollipop, and that was what they called blue beat, which then became ska, which then went to reggae. Cool. Yep. Chris Blackwell that ran Island Records, Millie was his first hit. Now that was about 63, 64. It was on the radio all the time, so I was immediately gravitated towards a blue beat, not so much ska, but blue beat, and then of course it went to reggae, and then African music. I've been very influenced by Abdullah Ibrahim over the years. So Indian music and African music, and music, island music from the Bahamas and stuff, English traditional folk and blues. So I was never a blues guitar player with blinkers on.
Gotcha.
I was welcome to. Open to other influences. I didn't consciously decide, I'm going to put these in my playing. Somehow they just get in there. If you listen to enough of that stuff, your rhythmic side of things, and Celtic music as well, it all gets mixed up, doesn't it? You know?
Absolutely, yeah. If you've got, like you said, if you don't have blinkers on and you're sort of willing to listen and accept lots of these other different cultural influences, and when you perform, you know, it's good to not sort of give yourself too much direction, isn't it? Like it's sort of, and having the vocabulary of all these other styles and cultures.
Yeah, and just being open to things, you know.
Yeah, and just going, cool, if it goes this way, let's do it. Let's really enhance that.
You could play the same 3 paragraphs 3 nights in a row, but the punctuation's different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's wonderful. And, you know, I guess we have guys like Rye to thank for that kind of open approach, you know.
I remember hearing that first Rye album, and I think, as I mentioned before, that was because of something that Rory Gallagher had said in an interview, and I was into him.
Yep.
And same with David Lindley.
Yeah.
You know, if you're prepared to go looking for stuff, there's just always going to be more and more and more and more. You're never going to run out. Are you?
No way. There's so much listening out there. Yeah. And you mentioned you've been playing a bit of sitar as well. Like was that kind of a thing of curiosity for you as well, or did you find one cheap somewhere?
It was. I got my first one in 1969, 1970.
Did you really? Wow.
And then I sold that, and I've had another couple since then. And a couple I've given away. I've got one sits around the house now. And the tambura there, so I've got a bunch of tamburas and a sarod, and I play a lot of percussion as well, so a lot of Indian percussion. When my son was a little boy, I used to put the tambura on his stomach when he was like in a cot, when he was even as a toddler, and I'd play the drone, and the tambura is hollow, so you put that hollow part on the kid's stomach and play the drone, and he'd be going to sleep with this drone because it resonates through his little body. And that was always that drone was really peaceful. And sometimes with a little kid, you can't get him in the bath. Once you get him in, you can't get him out. I get him in the bath, put bubble bath in there, light stick of incense, stick on the tambura, just to play a tambura drone out here, and he'd just be lying in the bath, topping up hot water till it was time to get out. So, but that lovely feeling of a drone, a drone and a bagpipe, a drone and a didgeridoo, which isn't as interesting unless you start listening to the harmonics.
Yeah.
It's not so immediately accessible. You might listen to a didgeridoo, for all due respect to didgeridoo players, and it might sound boring unless you jump inside and listen. You know, really listen, like we were saying before. You know, you half listen or you really listen.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, some of those drone. It's really is like meditation in a way, isn't it? Like it has this sort of effect, this calming kind of like if you give into it, like it's not just like background. Like you need to really focus on it,
immerse yourself in it.
Yeah,
and you get so much from it.
Incredible. And if you're approaching that sort of stuff on an instrument, like on a fretted instrument, like, because I know that there's a lot of microtonal stuff within that. Like, how do you go within the
That's
the
a very
frets on a
interesting
guitar?
point, because at one of the guitar festivals here, the international one that Slava Gregorian runs, I was a part of a panel as myself, and with Jeff Lang, and there was a Middle Eastern oud player, and Vram Bat's son, when talking about things and talking about vibrato, and his opinion was that Western musicians use vibrato to cover up bad intonation. And I said, well, from your cultural point of view, if you're looking at microtones, then that's how you're going to hear it. But from the point of view that somebody that plays blues or a guitar or a saxophone, or whatever, they don't hear it like their culture isn't like that. For them, it's a voice.
Yep.
And it connects the heart and the emotion to the voice, and it makes everybody's voice individual. I mean, nowadays, most of the young women on these shows have got Mariah Carey fever, and the vibrato's completely overdone, but because it's become a fashion.
Yeah.
But I can remember, it took me so long to develop a vibrato, and there's so many different ones. I mean, I don't really like the one that Paul Kossoff used in Free, or some of the American players used to use. And to me, that was too frenetic.
Yes.
But they love it, and there's plenty of people that do love it. So you've got a choice.
Yeah.
And with blues, you develop your vibrato. If you use it to slide, well, then microtones become part of it, of course.
Yep.
And even with a single string vibrato. When I first started playing some Indian instruments, first started playing sitar, the way to get those other strings to resonate is to not use any vibrato. I spent all my bloody life trying to develop vibrato, so I'm trying to play a string without vibrato. It was like, I need a hammer and a 6-inch nail to hammer my fingers solid, because it's become such a habit. And you listen to all the guitar players that you love, and part of their voice is their individual vibrato.
Absolutely.
Or vibratos if they've got a collection.
Yes,
of them.
that's right. Yeah, such a big part of the vocabulary on an instrument. And I've been trying to think about it recently too, is to not use it, because it becomes
that's the hard thing, is not using it, isn't it? Because once you've developed it, it's just like second nature.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're trying to not use it. And you look at the distinctives. I mean, at the time when we're talking about that record with Eric Clapton, the Beano album, wonderful record. At the same time, I was listening to Mike Bloomfield.
Yes.
With him and Al Cooper on that Live Adventures album. And his vibrato was different. Yeah. And he was using a Les Paul, but his tone was different. It was through a Fender amp, not a Marshall. It was still breaking up, still wound up, but it had a bit of a cleaner sound to it. And that was when I guess I first started to realise just what a different vibratos
make. Yeah, it's such an iconic part of someone's sound, and you hear someone like maybe Jeff Beck, or B.B. King, or Santana, all these different ways of letting a note kind of find its natural place.
It's the personal touch. Every one of those has that vibrato and their own tone, and their own choice of where to put it.
Yeah.
Another one I really loved in those early days, who went on to more country stuff, but I thought he had such a distinct way of playing guitar, was Elvin Bishop.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
He was a mother plucker. He was fantastic, but he came from a different point of view again.
Yeah. I think, and Django Reinhardt, for me, his vibrato is
his vibrato is scary.
So purposeful. Like it's just it's strong.
And I've got a lot of Django stuff because Dad played to me when I was young, but I bought an album with him playing electric guitar.
Yep.
Doesn't sound the same.
No.
It's still great. You can't fault the playing, but it's not his sound anymore.
Yeah.
His sound was digging in on the acoustic.
Yeah. Is it Macaferri guitar? Is that what they are?
Yeah.
Yeah, or Selma. I think
Selma Macaferri's.
Yeah, no, amazing stuff. And even to I've been getting deep into slide guitar for the last 5 or so years, and to not give it vibrato, because it's quite easy to hit a note and approximate the pitch and then kind of wiggle around it to kind of get close, but to actually nail the note and to not wobble it.
Yeah, and get it straight away without sliding up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such a skill.
Well, if you're worried about it, the answer is don't fret.
Yeah. I like that. And what was I going? Oh yeah, the microtonal thing. There's a band. What are they called? With a Lizard Wizard. What are they called? They're very prolific. They bring out 2 or 3 albums a year.
American, English, Australian?
They're an Australian band, but they're massive overseas. I can't believe I've forgotten it. Anyway, so they've brought out guitars with microtonal frets. They've kind of put little half ones in between and stuff like that, and they've dedicated records to that sound. I think it's such a cool approach.
Yes. Yeah. And they make those guitars. I've already never tried to play one with slanted frets on them as well.
Oh yeah, the fan fret things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never played one.
I've got some Turkish instruments, saz and a yayli tambor and a shumbush. The shumbush is fretless, a 12-string and fretless with a banjo body.
Right.
The other ones have got those microtonal frets, and they're tied on.
Ah.
So you can move them.
Right. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
I've heard of them. I've never heard them. I should actually try.
I think there's a record called the Microtonal Banana, and because he's got this sort of old Yamaha or Tiesco sort of guitar. It's like bright yellow.
Yeah.
So that's what they've called it.
Microtonal Banana. That would have a great appeal.
And tell me about your recorded history, Chris. Like, were you when in those early days were you playing within a band, like a guitar player in a band, or was it kind of more like the Chris Finnen band?
No,
how did that?
The first band I was in, I was 15 and the other guys were 18 and 19. So they were, and the age gap difference was probably more prominent then than it is now, because people are far more educated younger now. And I was just in a new country, getting used to things, finding my feet. I joined this band called St James Infirmary. We had a vocalist, and the vocalist left, and no one in the band wanted to sing, and I was the youngest one, so they said, well, you're singing. So that was interesting for me, because I'd already, from the age of 11 when I started, I wanted to play my Donovan songs, Peter, Paul and Mary songs and folk songs. So if I wanted to play them, I had to play them and sing them. And I remember learning House of the Rising Sun and going, there was a lady down the street called Mrs. Booker, and I'd finished school and I'd knock on her door and I'd sing a House of the Rising Sun, and she'd give me a toffee or a chocolate, so she got to hear the song a lot because I used to like toffee and chocolate. But so that was already gave me a grounding in singing. So therefore you had to learn your words and your chord changes, and you had to make the chord changes in time so that the song wasn't going to wait for you. So I struggled with both of those things hand in glove, and I've often said to people, you know, when they've played guitar and then they want to learn to sing and they regard them as a separate entity, if you do them both together, it's going to be much easier for you. So then in the first electric band I was in, the singer left, so I got the short straw for vocals, and I gradually developed my singing along because I had to sing, so that helped. And then I always used to go and do my folk music. That was St James Infirmary. Then I had another band. We changed the name of the band to called it Concrete Wellington, which was a piss take on Led Zeppelin.
Ah, right.
You know, what's a heavy name? Concrete Wellington. So that was my bloody sense of humour, and that played around in Melbourne until about. And then I came to Adelaide in 1970, October 74.
Right.
And I had called my band the Chris Finnen Offering.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Larry Coryell's.
Okay.
Coryell, my God. Coryell had an album called Offering, and I liked the sound of that. So I didn't play like him, obviously, but I called the band Offering. I thought that was a good idea. And then from there, just various successions of my own bands, and then I played with people like Dutch Tilders and Matt Taylor and Margaret Road Night. Yep. So it was in the Matt Taylor band in the early 80s, and then came back to live in Adelaide, and just ended up calling it the Chris Finnen Band was easier. Yep. So I just sort of called it that.
Yep. And were you recording back in those days as well?
Yeah, I was, and unfortunately I had all these recordings, and I really started, I guess, my early recordings about 1974, 75. And I went, funnily enough, it was a Tasmanian tour, and I was there for a month. And I was living in a little house and trust flat, and I came back, and I had all my old scrapbooks and photographs and cassette tapes, reel-to-reel tapes, stored on the top shelf of a built-in wardrobe. And while I was away for the 4 weeks, the hot water service leaked. And when I came back, all of those recordings and books and everything were just turned to paper mache because it had been leaking for a month. Hot water. So they were just completely trashed. So I think the earliest recordings I've got now go back to about 1977.
Right. Wow.
I do have some archival stuff that I should because nowadays they can take the stuff off, because it's on cassette tape, so
Okay.
I should really get it sorted out, because the cassettes are so old. I mean, there's a bunch of them in here.
Yeah.
Get the good ones copied and get the noise taken out.
Yeah.
And use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to Stephen, is it Vanderbosch?
Yes.
Yesterday, he mentioned that
That
there's...
Journey Dream Suite thing.
He mentioned there was a lost album that he had on cassette that ended up getting digitised and
Yes.
becoming, like a record that you said... was that one of the ones that got lost in the water cylinder accident?
No, it was a little bit after
No?
that,
After.
but I had it on cassette and sold them one. I think I kept one. So he very kindly had it put onto.
And he was saying, did you have your dad on a few tracks?
My dad was on one track.
One track.
My dad died in 1991. He was very young when he died. He was only 65.
Right.
When my son comes back from Japan next year, he plays drums as well. He's just for fun.
Okay.
So what I want to do is go back and take that track into the studio and get my son Isaac on the track.
Oh,
so
yeah.
then I will have 3 generations of my father, myself and my son on one track, just for the sake of having it and put it on something I release, just for the sheer joy of 3 generations of music.
Yeah, that's a really lovely concept for posterity as well.
Yeah, and all my dad wanted, I said, we're going to go into the studio, Dad. And I said, what do you want? He said, a snare, a hi-hat, and a pair of brushes. That's all he wanted. And he recorded the snare part with the brushes, and then we did the second track where he turned the brushes around the other way with the little metal bits and played the rim.
Oh, right.
And that was it.
Yeah, okay. Oh, that's so cool. I feel... No.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
No, not at all. All the same. Oh yeah, I feel a similar connection too. Like, 'cause my dad played drums with me for maybe 5-6 years in the early incarnations of my band.
Yeah.
And so that connection you get through music, such a strong one. And I feel it now because my kids play music.
Yeah.
And my young fella's really into drums. He's such a... And my dad played drums, so it's like this sort of weird sort of connection through them, and it's and I can't wait to see how that develops as well. Like if he continues to play and
it kind of will, because you'll give it the space to. You're probably not going to rush it. It's like, I know when I got him a little drum kit, and then I got him an electronic kit.
Yep.
Which wasn't much use for cymbals or anything. And then when he was about 11, I played him the Gene Krupa story.
Sure.
And then I played him a couple of clips of Buddy Rich, and he had to do a school project on whoever your hero was, and it was Buddy Rich.
Yeah.
And he wanted to start buying roll-neck jumpers and skivvies and wearing medallions, and and it was his sort of Buddy Rich phase. But okay, well, if you like Buddy Rich, here's Max Roach. Listen to the hi-hat, So, and I love a lot of jazz, so listen to all this jazz stuff, and he loved that. But then the Indian musicians would come around here, and there'd be tabla players playing and stuff.
Yeah.
So he soaked it all up. And then at one stage he said, I think I might sell my drum kit, Dad. I want to buy some clothes. And I thought, yep, that's fine. Sell your drum kit. Some of my friends said, aren't you worried about him selling a kit? I said, no. He started mucking around with drumming and stuff when he was 3. He'll come back to it.
Yep.
And sure enough, a couple of years later, you know your kids so well, and they say something, you know what the next line's going to be.
Yeah.
If Isaac said, I was wondering, it always meant he'd either need some money or he wanted to buy something.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we could get a drum kit again, Dad. I said, well, yeah, if you're going to play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad. So ended up getting a drum kit, which is in the front room there. And we just used it for rehearsals. And when he was heading off to Japan, he'd married a Japanese girl and he's been living over there. Oh, Dad, keep the kit here, and whenever Matt would come over and have a chain rehearsal. The kit was always in the lounge room. So it's always there.
Great.
And next time I go to Japan, none of his Japanese friends know that he plays.
Oh, right.
His main thing is his skateboarding and all that. So next time I go over there, I want to go to the city where the blues clubs are.
Yeah.
And haul him up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I won't take a band over. I'll just go and sit in with some people. But
Yeah.
I'll get him to get up and drum.
Yeah.
One, because it'd be good for us.
Yeah.
And two, it'll be good for his friends to see that he drums. And I remember when Dutch died, Isaac was absolutely devastated. He really loved Dutch. And I went over to Dutch's funeral and he said, oh, Dad, can I come with you? And I said, well, look, funerals are very sad things. And I think he was about 11 or then or something.
Yeah.
And I said, they're very sad things. And he said, well, Dad, I've known Dutch all my life. Dutch always used to sleep in my room. I'd sleep on the couch in the front. I said, yep, you're right. Okay, I'll get you the ticket. And then a little while afterwards, I was doing a thing down at, I forget the name of the place. It was a park sort of way down. Well, Winston Galea used to live down there. And
right.
Can't remember the place and the name of the place. But Isaac wanted to get up. He said, oh, Dad, because we used to do How's the Rising Sun for Dutch every so often. And he said, oh, Dad, do you think it'd be all right if I got up and played? And I said, well, if you want to do that song, we'll see. And I went over and spoke to the drummer and said, what was it? And he said, yeah, that's fine. I said, well, Isaac, you need to go over and talk to the drummer and ask if you can do it.
Yep.
And you have the conversation.
Yes.
You know. So he did that, and he ended up playing the piece. So the thing I liked about that was not only did he enjoy drumming, but he understood, you know, it's easy to know there's an emotional content with chords and melody and vocals, but there was one with drumming as well, and that gets overlooked sometimes, you know. It's such an important element. If anything's going to work, it's going to work because it's got the right rhythm.
Yeah. And it's important too, I think, that as a young person, like acknowledging, like say if you're going to share a stage with someone like that, acknowledging and respecting that the drummer's set up and the space, you know, like it's a bit of a sacred space, the stage, isn't it? And especially, you know,
and you're using something that belongs to somebody else, so there's a respect for the instrument and there's all of that.
Yeah, but like he must have felt really connected to that. Like just the moment, like the song and the moment and the gesture behind it and stuff like that. So
because he loved Dutch so much, and then a few months later he said, "Oh, Dad, I really miss Dutch." I said, "This is about 3 months after Dutch. I really miss him." I said, "Well, what's your favourite memory of Dutch, Isaac?" He said, "Oh, you, me, and Dutch in the back garden with our shirts off eating yappies." I said, "Well, when you miss him, think of that."
Yeah.
Think of something that's going to make you put a smile on your dial.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's what, you know, I think that's sort of great thing about music too. It can rehash a lot of that deep emotional stuff, and, you know, it can take you to places straight away, kind of like... memories of times and
and you're right, straight away. And music, listening to pieces of music can do that. I remember walking down the street maybe 30 years ago in the northern suburbs, and it was a nice sunny day, walking down the street, and I smelt sweet peas and geraniums, and straight away I was transported to the little back garden in England with only, because I'm a world's worst gardener, but one year I was about 8 years old, Dad let me grow some strawberries. It was my strawberry patch, and we had these strawberries for dessert that Sunday.
Sure.
And I'd forgotten about for years I'd forgotten all about it. As soon as I smelt those flowers, I bloody saw that garden straight away. And music does the same thing. You'll listen to something you haven't heard for years, and it takes you back to a moment. It opens up a door in the memory.
Yeah.
And I quite often do volunteer work in old people's homes, and you go and play for some old people, and you know, I did one last Friday actually with some friend of mine, and they're in these wheeling beds, and they can, you know, some of them are really infirmed and really struggling, and all of a sudden music just brings them alive.
Yeah, it's special, isn't it?
Yeah.
Such a wonderful gift to be able to share, and yeah, it's just. I know,
and that's why it has
part
to,
of the human spirit, I reckon.
Yeah, and that's why I think it has to remain music. You know, it can be a bit disconcerting sometimes when you think, oh fuck, you know, this is push button music. And nothing against modern technology because it helps all of us.
Yeah.
But if it's just push button music and it's just, if the heart and soul goes out of it, what are you left with?
Yeah.
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 So this is why we're talking about passing this music on to people, and that's why that's so important.
It's so important. Yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really can't wait to continue sharing music with my kids. And
How old are your kids?
My eldest is 13, my middle child is 11, and the young fellow's 8.
All boys or boys?
2 girls and a boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the boy is the drummer, and he plays a bit of guitar.
Yeah.
He loves. He's sort of on the end of the phase at the moment, but he loves early Bon Scott period AC/DC.
Yes.
It's just, I don't know. I guess it's young boy music, really. It's
Yeah, and it's exciting. It's you know, it was our Led Zeppelin or something.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
and he loves it, and it's. I guess for him, it's accessible because it's, you know, to play drums along to that stuff. You know, it's not super complex, but there's like a deep groove in
It
there.
locks into.
It locks in.
Once you know that, you can go either side of it.
Yeah, that's right. And you've still got, you know, Angus approximating, you know, Chuck Berry through a Marshall.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And it's still got lots of energy and vibe. So I love it. I think it's so great. And yeah, we jam quite often. We picked up a drum kit recently just in our local town and
Yeah.
fixed it up, you know. It was a bit of a, you know, fixer-upper. So
Yeah.
we got out the steel ball and cleaned it up and polished it up.
And just doing that together, the two of you, you know,
Yeah.
sharing that with your son. That's, you know, that's.
It was so great. We both worked on it for a week and made it look really nice, made it sound great. So,
Yeah.
And now my nice, you know, Ludwig and nice cymbals can remain unbroken.
Yeah.
He can do what he likes with his kit, you know. He can
Yeah.
go to town and smash it up. I don't care. But yeah, that was a nice moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what's coming up for you, Chris? Any future projects underway?
Yeah, I recorded a solo album about a year ago, and it's just kind of blues stuff. There's nothing revolutionary about it. And there's a bunch of blues covers, and there's some of my own stuff redone. I just recorded it for the sheer fun of it.
Great.
And it's been sitting around, and a very good friend of mine, Colin Offord, that does really avant-garde music. He's a great producer, and he stayed here last week. And I played it for him. I said, you know, Colin, because he's so good at mixing stuff, and I thought, why don't you take this and mix it? I'll come over to Melbourne and put, because it's just voice and guitar, put it in someone else's hands that's got a completely different, who's not a blues guy, and got a completely different point of view.
Yeah.
And you know, I'll just probably get them run off, you know, 100 at a time or 50 at a time or whatever, just limited edition little thing. So that's that. And then I've got some world music stuff, for want of a better word,
Great.
To finish off. And then once I get a head around this, they just keep putting out stuff, you know, from home. So,
Great.
And just gigs. I mean, with my age, with being in my mid-70s, approaching my mid-70s, I probably haven't done as many gigs this last 2 years as I have in the past. I was always gigging. Whereas now, you know, I go and do a bunch of gigs, come home, and I'd, you know, get some rest, and then halfway through the next day I'd be fine.
Yeah.
Now I go and do that, and it takes me maybe a day and a half to recover.
Sure.
So it takes me a little bit longer just because I'm older and my back and stuff. But what I was talking to someone about the other day was I'll still put in my absolute 100% performance-wise. So if I'm absolutely knackered and it takes me 2 days to get over it, at least I know I've done a 100% job, rather than make it easier on myself and put less into the performance, and then I've shortchanged myself and the audience, and I've fallen short of a standard.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just put in the 100%. If I feel a bit knackered, well, so be it. And I remember thinking that about Frank Sinatra. Was, you know, he had so much. He could have done anything he wanted, but at the end, when it was time for him to retire, he still kept singing.
Yeah.
And it didn't sound very good anymore, but he still kept doing it. if I'm sounding like a bag of shit, I don't want to subject other people to that. I might subject the dog to it and a few friends if they're sitting around here. But, you know, and at the moment I can still sing. And so, you know, I'm fully aware of the standard.
Sure.
Yeah. And every gig I do, I think, well, wait a minute, Chris, this is really important that you enjoy this gig because you've got more behind you than you've got in front of you. And I'm not a pessimist, I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist. So every time you get to play, every time you get to talk to people and share music, you've been doing this. Now, if I say music is my life, that could sound like a cliche, but at the age of 73 and having started at 11 and gone full-time since 16, it just simply is true. There's no getting away from it, you know. And I sort of count my blessings. Although I'm not massively famous, I've got a good enough profile around this country to make people happy and myself happy. I don't care about, you know, people say, oh, aren't you disappointed you never made it? I say, well, what's making it?
Exactly.
I get up in the morning, I've got food in my larder, a roof over my head, a bunch of friends, and I'm happy, and I go and play music. That'll do me.
Yeah.
Anything else is a bonus, you know.
I love that. That's so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, mate, for having a chat on the show.
Oh, thanks for your company, and thank you for taking the time and trouble to do this.
Yeah.
It's just nice to catch up with you, because next time you come over, we might have a little play and go and have a meal and, you know, and catch up.
Yeah, sounds like a treat.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, folks, to another episode of Say It With Guitars. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, share it around to your mates, leave a good review, and hopefully we'll see you next time.